everybody, this is Brigid Harrington
and Shannon Harrington,
and welcome back to the
We Want Arts podcast,
where we interview a variety of people in arts education and the entertainment industry to explore the necessity of arts education. Today, we are extremely lucky because we have a very special guest joining us today. Taryn Sacramone is the executive director of Queen's Theater in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, and she oversees all of its many operations, programming, and productions. Shannon first met Taryn in 2015 during their production of To Kill a Mockingbird, where Shannon played Scout. Before Taryn's time at Queen's Theater, she served as a senior projects manager at the Social Science Research Center and as the executive director of the Astoria Performing Arts Center for 8 years. She is a prominent arts administrator, and we are very lucky to have her with us here today. Well, Taryn, it is a pleasure to have you here with us today. I am just so happy that we were able to speak with you. Shannon, I have Shannon here with me today as well.
Taryn, thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking with us. It means a lot to us. And ever since we met during To Kill a Mockingbird, I've always really respected you and the work that you do for the theater. And I'm just so grateful that we can chat here today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for those very kind words.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Well, first, I was wondering if you might tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you do at Queen's Theater and what your role as executive director entails.
Sure, yeah. So for those who may not know, Queen's Theater is a performing arts center located in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, in the heart of Queens. We have 3 theater spaces, a 472-seat house, a 90-seat black box theater, and a cabaret space. We do a variety of programming. The 3 spaces that we have really allow us to do a variety of work, including dance, theater, some of which we produce in-house, some of which we present the work of other theater companies. We've done new play development for our whole 30-year history as well. We have a family series of theater for young audience shows that we have throughout the year, special events, music, and we do off-site work as well. Our education programs are both on-site in schools and branches of the Queens Library. We do community events and partner with other Queens-based organizations. So our mission is to serve our uniquely diverse community in Queens. And we think a variety of work is really appropriate for serving that diverse community well. We've also been doing a lot of work on disability inclusion in the last few years. We have an initiative called Theater for All that has a goal of making the performing arts more inclusive of disabled people, both on stage, off stage, as cultural workers, as students, and that's been really exciting, important work as well.
Right, and speaking of educational programs, one of my favorite memories in Mockingbird was when we performed 2 of our matinees for groups of students from Queens. And it made me so happy to see how the students were so into the play. And when the actor who played Bob Ewell spit in Atticus's face, I remember the entire audience just went insane. It was like such a crazy and amazing experience. All the actors loved it. We all loved how everyone was so involved and into it. And I thought it was such an important piece of theater for schools to travel to and see because it really complements what they're learning in English class. And so why do you think that it's important to engage schools with the Queen's Theater, and what do they get out of their experience at the theater?
Yeah, well, our student matinee program is interesting because we do our professional main stage shows, whether it's dance or theater. We do those shows and then give students an opportunity to engage directly in a Q&A with the artists. So those shows are not specifically for children. We're giving them exposure to other works, the works that we would put on for general audiences. And so for a lot of these students, it's their first exposure to the performing arts, which is really, really exciting. And we see the diversity of our borough reflected in our audiences, and it makes for some really magical moments. We had an Argentine dance company called Che Malambo, for example, who came and performed, and afterwards during the Q&A, their manager got on stage to translate from Spanish to English, and the kids just started asking their questions in Spanish because the majority of the audience spoke Spanish, and so translation worked kind of both ways. And their first question was asking the dancers who their favorite soccer player was, which is so charming. But they also asked questions like, how many hours do you rehearse? And they always ask, how much money do you make? Which is interesting because, their imaginations have been captured and they're thinking about, oh, these are careers. These are, look at these passionate adult performers that seem to really be enjoying what they do. My favorite student matinee story is actually from the To Kill a Mockingbird student matinee. What I loved, I absolutely remember the same thing, that they were extremely vocal throughout the show. And when the verdict came and it was guilty, I just remember them going, no, and, really screaming. And then afterwards during the Q&A, I remember one of the students got up and said, how many of you, meaning the actors, read To Kill a Mockingbird? And everybody raised their hand. And then our Atticus asked, how many of you have read To Kill a Mockingbird? And most of the audience raised their hands. And so then his follow-up question was, so why were you surprised by the verdict? And one of the students stood up and said, because we thought you would fix it. And
I remember
thought that was so powerful because it shows, the power of theater, right? You're in the same room, breathing the same air, sharing the same energy as the cast, and it makes you feel like even though you know what's going to happen, maybe the actors could make a different choice. Maybe the characters could make a different choice. Maybe Romeo and Juliet are going to live another day. And it makes it, even when you know it's coming, there's something about a live performance. And to bring that magic to young audiences and maybe give them an opportunity to say, this is something that I could make a part of my life, whether it's as a performer or as an audience member, but this is something that I could enjoy. And seeing that happen, seeing that those sparks and those connections being made in the room makes our student matinees just, one of my favorite things that we do.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, like you said, not only do the student matinees expose students to a career in the arts, but they also do animate the stories that they've been, studying in school. But I want to turn now. I guess this next question is for me because I'm currently majoring in political science at Notre Dame. But I wanted to ask you. You were a political science major during your time at Kenyon College, and I wanted to know how your background in political science kind of informs your work now as an arts administrator.
Oh, interesting. So, yes, I was a political science major at Kenyon, and it was a real liberal arts education, though, where I took, a variety of courses across different subjects. I went into college not entirely sure what I was going to end up doing, and it stayed that way throughout college. I studied abroad at Oxford my junior year and studied political philosophy, but also film and the rise of the novel. So I did a real seafood sampler across all 4 years of college. But it was interesting to me that in my drama classes and in political science, I was reading Aristotle for both, at the same time. There was this sort of aesthetics or way of thinking, way of framing arguments and ways of telling stories, and I always felt that there was a connection between the two. I would say as an arts administrator, I came to that because when I moved to New York, I had some thoughts actually about being an actor. I was taking acting classes at the Atlantic Theater, and during the day I was working at a research organization called the Social Science Research Council. So once again, I had political science and drama happening in my life, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do grad school or law school or theater, and it all kind of clicked for me with the idea of running a nonprofit theater. I was not a particularly good actor, and Also didn't necessarily see myself being, a lawyer or going to grad school, but something clicked with the idea of, okay, I actually sort of have all of these skills, whether it's writing skills or the ability to make the case for something, making the case for why the arts should be supported, making the case why culture is important, and I could be applying those skills to any sort of topic that interested me. So somehow all of my interests came together, and on March 24th, 2005, I woke up and said, oh, I want to be the executive director of a nonprofit arts organization.
Right. And another thing that I wanted to ask you is what you were looking for in potential pieces of theater, because I know that selecting pieces that are relevant in the current climate is something that is important to you. So, what goes through your mind when you're picking pieces of theater?
So again, we serve a really diverse audience, and I look for things that tap into universal themes. I think it's important when you're serving audiences to provide these shared experiences for diverse audiences. So instead of siloing or segmenting your program, you're really trying to see that diversity within a house. And oftentimes I've found that family themes about relationships among family members, if there are stories that are at the core of that, you can tell a real range of stories, but everybody can kind of relate to those. And so that's been a recurring theme that I've noticed, that if something has really family at the core of it, including To Kill a Mockingbird. So you can have these thoughts, these stories about social justice, but the point of entry for all audiences tends to be these kind of core relationships. So that's something I'm particularly attracted to.
Well, Taryn, I just want to leave you with one more question here. So during the coronavirus pandemic, Queen's Theater recently announced new online programming, including arts workshops via Zoom. You're broadcasting recorded performances online as well. So I was just wondering if you could explain how COVID-19 has impacted the operations at Queen's Theater and what you are doing to adapt to these new circumstances that we all find ourselves in.
Yeah, I mean, it was very instant. We opened the month having we started March having a hit play running in our studio, a new work called Chicken and Biscuits. We had Trinity Irish Dance Company on our main stage. We had all kinds of things in the works. And then all of a sudden, we were closed. And we realized that even though we weren't built for social distancing, right? Our work is about bringing people together, that we were more important than ever to our community in a time of social distancing. In Queens, we're really in the epicenter of the epicenter. We knew that our community would want to hear from us. And importantly, I don't think of Queen's Theater as a building. I think of it as a set of values and people and work and stories. And so we learned what options were available to us in terms of the technology, like Zoom, where we could be reaching people in their homes and doing things like story circles. We transitioned our education programs from being in schools and senior centers to being online. One example is we have these 7 calls in partnership with senior centers that are closed right now, where we bring senior citizens together to sing songs and tell stories together. So finding a range of ways that we could stay connected, and especially this is a very uncertain period of time, and some of this virtual programming is something that I can imagine ourselves really continuing into the future. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of things that are going to be new. We're going to have what we call dance breaks and master classes with local dance companies, and then live dance performances with some really exceptional, accomplished dance performances, and culminate those with the social dance. We have where people are going to be able to follow the development of new works of theater. We have teaching artists putting theater games out there for parents and teachers that may want to be doing something different with their kids. So we've taken this really difficult time and tried to find new ways to do things that feel true to Queen's Theater, and true to what we would be doing if our doors were open. But Queen's Theater is not a building.
Well, Taryn, we know that you are very busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here today. You know, the work that you do in the arts, especially now during this really trying time, it's something that the two of us respect very much, and you know, we're just so happy to know you.
Thank you so much, and
Well, stay in touch. Let's do this again.
The We Want Arts podcast, hosted by me, Brigid Harrington, and produced and edited by my sister Shannon Harrington. Original music by Shannon Harrington. If you haven't done so already, follow Broadway Arts Reach on Facebook and check out our website at broadwayartsreach.org. That's Broadway ARTSREACH. Also, follow my sister and I on our social media pages on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks so much for listening, and we hope you'll be back soon.